Now we've already looked at destructuring with objects, and however, we can actually use destructuring with arrays. Now this is a really interesting concept, and it also saves us a lot of lines of code as well. So in the last video, we looked at our multi-dimensional array, and what we're going to do is demonstrate how a before and after with destructuring and without destructuring is going to help us streamline our JavaScript development when dealing with data structures such as objects or arrays. Now, typically what we would want to do, we could say drink number 1, and then we would typically do something like drinks square bracket 0, which would give us the first item in our array. Then we did something like this in the previous video where we said drink number 2 equals drinks square bracket 1, and we end up creating all these variables for all of the particular array items that we want. Now, there is a more streamlined way we can do this. Before we do, let's just log these out in the console just to show what it gives us. Now, you can see here we have our array. It's got a length of 2, lemonade, and the price, and lime, and again, the price. Now, what we can do, instead of doing this, is we can use array destructuring to get these items. So instead of saying on each line, we want drink 1, we can use this square bracket syntax and just simply point it to this drinks array, which means we can blow away this as well, and we can go and create another variable, drink number 2. We'll hit save, and you can see in the console that everything is the same. Now, the way that we can create these, we do not have to define any particular variables. Now, if you remember when it came to destructuring objects, we did something like this, and we asked for the specific names of the properties. Now, with an array, we do not have names because we're dealing with indexed collections, so everything is 0, 1, and 2. So instead of naming them, we get to essentially name them whatever we would like. So here we could say 1, we could rename this one to 2, and it doesn't matter. We can call these absolutely anything we like. Now, as long as they are destructured in the correct order, we can then get hold of all of the items. So you can see here that we also can destructure that third item. Now, what's interesting is we can also, because we have an array here, we can also destructure perhaps inside of number 2. So instead of specifying 2, we could remove it and we could say A and then B. We'll go into our console, A and B, save this out, and you can see now that we are getting access to the individual items inside of there. So you can see that not only we can destructure on the top level, but using an array syntax inside, we can destructure on the next level down. Now, this is exactly the same syntax as when we deal with objects, so it shouldn't be too unfamiliar by now, and we can start to think in a destructuring way. And whether we're dealing with an array or an object, the same syntax, thankfully, does apply. Now, the only difference really when we dealt with this syntax with objects is we had the ability to rename it to potentially my number 1, which would then create a variable under this name. Now, that doesn't really matter because, as I mentioned, that's not how destructuring works with arrays. Arrays, we can call the variables whatever we would like. Now, the third item that we would like to show is the rest parameter. So instead of third, we're going to call it ... rest because we want the rest of the items, and we can go ahead and save that out. So what this in fact does is destructures these items from the array, and this gives us a brand new array with the elements that we've destructured completely removed. So what we should end up with is Peach inside of here and a length of 1 with 2 items inside. Now, what we can also do if we wanted to perhaps ignore the first argument is we can just leave it as a comma and just completely ignore it. So you can see that doing so is completely valid JavaScript. This will actually mean undefined. And you can also declare arrays like this and leave comma separated values as well. But you can see we're no longer destructuring A, we're simply using a comma to skip the value, which is why we are left with this price because B is pointing to the prices. So this is a short and sweet, but it's extremely powerful, and this basically covers all the syntax that you indeed need to know. So that's it for this video. That's array destructuring. as you dive deeper into your JavaScript journey, you're going to see more use cases for when you'll need this. And within a couple of minutes, you can refresh yourself, come back to this video and see how everything works again.